Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. It's JMA Friday today, so we're having a look at the weather for the coming month with the Japanese and CFS V2 model. So it's going to take us more or less at the start of July, so we'll be going just about into the second month of summer 2016 with this update. Going to look at 500 millibar heights from the JMA and then the corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with that, and then we'll have a look at the CFS V2 as well. So very on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through the widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most pages, so own our content when you watch them, close back up again, and it helps to pay for our website. Just to say that this ceiling, probably going to do storm watch. There is the risk of some thunderstorms over the weekend and into the start of next week. So we'll have a bit of a look at that, I think, this evening on Stormwatch. Come back for that later. Right, let's start off with the JMA, and we're going to have a look at 500 of our height anomalies, broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 3rd through to the 10th of June, so the week that we are just starting. As you know, with these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure and yellow, red, orange, the brighter colours extrapolate to high pressure. So for the coming week, we've got this ridge up to the north and the northeast with a trough in the Atlantic and a trough over towards Scandinavia, northeastern parts of Europe. It means that the jet stream does something like that. It places us on the warm side of the jet stream, and we're bringing up this sort of southerly, southeasterly type flow. So actually, that's pretty warm conditions coming up for the coming week. Will be a risk of some thunder. As I say, we'll update Stormwatch later to see what the thundery potential is over the next few days. But, yeah, pretty warm conditions there, I think. And the risk of thunder, particularly in the south and the southwest, less so, of course, close to that ridge up in the north. Now, week 2 looks like this. This is going from the 10th through to the 17th of June. This looks rather unsettled, actually. It looks like the ridge is broken down here, and low pressure is coming in off the Atlantic. Look, the jet stream is more or less moving through the country, so that's significantly more unsettled, I would have thought, around the middle part of June. There could be some bouts of rain moving in off the Atlantic. With an Atlantic flow in June, it's probably going to be a bit cooler as well. So, not great trends, actually, for that second week going into the middle part of the month. And then week 3 and week 4, which is the 17th of June through to the 1st of July, that one looks like this, and it's rather uncertain again, but there's some sort of ridge down to the south through France, and then low pressure is across Iceland, and probably bringing the jet stream through a little bit like that. It implies that the driest conditions would be in the south, and the wettest conditions would be in the north and the west. All places will be at risk of some rain coming through, but I don't think it's a washout of a scenario, because we've got this ridge down to the south, which particularly for England and Wales would offer us some protection, but it is Atlantic driven, so it's probably not overly hot. Let's have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with these charts. That was the Northern Hemisphere view, looking from the pole down. This is the mid-latitude and tropical view. So the British Isles on this chart is just here in the far top right-hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. We started with week 1 again, which is the 3rd through to the 10th of June. We know that we've got this ridge out to the northeast, and the trough is in the Atlantic. The jet stream is doing something a bit like that. So it means that for the coming week, the temperature is significantly warmer than average in those yellow colours there, which on the scale is around 1 to 2 degrees above average. So a very significantly warmer than average week actually coming up for the coming week. And precipitation is generally coming out below average. It's closer to average in the west across Ireland, but generally for the UK as a whole, we're coming out drier than average. I think there is risk of some thunderstorms in with that, but generally a drier than average week and warmer than average temperatures. Very pleasant week coming up. Week 2, though, from the 10th through to 17th, this looks significantly more unsettled. Remember that trough of low pressure is coming in off the Atlantic, the jet stream moving through the country a bit like that as well. So the temperature anomaly for the week 2 period, the temperature 17th, that one, generally it is still a bit above average, but it's a cooler anomaly compared to week 1, if you see what I mean. So overall it's still warmer than average. It's not as warm as week 1. And most significantly, probably, is the precipitation anomaly, because that's going wetter than average, and significantly so as well. So that looks a much more unsettled period there around the middle part of June. Week 3 and week 4 looks like this. It all gets rather complicated, but there's some sort of ridge down to the south with low pressure up to the northwest, and the jet streams coming through a bit like that. So you have a look at the temperature anomaly. That still is doing okay. It's generally a little bit warmer than average. Not a heat wave, but generally a bit above average. And precipitation, that looks wettest in the north and the west, and driest in the south and the southeast. So generally we're reverting to a more typical summer pattern there in the second half of June, which is relatively changeable, but not a washout. Most unsettled in the north and west, driest and warmest, but not totally dry and warm in the south and the east of the country. That's for JMA. Let's see how the CFS V2, it said Beijing Climate Centre there for a second. Let's see how the CFS V2 is dealing with things over the coming months. So these again, 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period taking us from the 3rd through to the 9th of June. We have a big area of above average heights to the north and the east, with the trough in the Atlantic and the trough over towards Scandinavia, northeast parts of Europe. The jet stream is doing something like that. So it's virtually identical to what the JMA is doing for the coming week. Actually, it would be a significantly warmer than average week, but with a risk of thunderstorms, particularly so in the south and the west. Now look at this, week 2, which is the 10th through to the 16th, when the JMA wants to turn things much more unsettled. The CFS is doing that as well. So we've got a trough of low pressure right over top of the country. What happens to that area of above average heights, I'm not sure, but it's gone by the time you get through to the week of the 10th through to the 16th of June. And that looks very unsettled, with the low pressure over the country and in the Atlantic bringing those westerlies through. The jet stream has come southwards as well. Week 3 from the 17th through to 23rd of June, that one also looking unsettled. Trough of low pressure is again centred over the country. The ridge is doing something like that out to the east. The jet stream, generally, we're on the cool side of the jet. So once again, that looks very unsettled there for week 3. And then week 4, and this goes very much to what the JMA is doing. So week 4, which takes us from the 24th through to the 30th of June. Look at this, heights building to the south. Low pressure is around Iceland. It flows generally off the Atlantic, but it is turning drier and warmer there as that ridge builds down to the south across France and Spain and Portugal. So very, very good agreement this morning between the JMA and the CFS V2 as to the way both of these models are expecting things to play out. The temperature anomaly from CFS V2 the coming week looks very warm, significantly warmer than average. Week 2, remember, it turns much more unsettled in this week. Generally above average temperatures, but less so compared to week 1. So that, again, same idea of what the JMA is doing. Week 3, this is from the 17th to 23rd of June. This goes cooler than average. The JMA doesn't do that. But it does look like a cooler than average week there in the 3rd week of the month. And then week 4, as the heights build to the south, temperatures generally hinting at going a little bit warmer than average again, although it is quite a weak signal. Precipitation, the coming week looks generally drier than average. Week 2, however, from the 10th through to the 16th, that goes wetter than average, in line again with what the JMA is showing. Week 3, from the 17th to 23rd, that looks a bit wetter than average, particularly so in the north and west. And then week 4, generally, as the ridge is building to the south of the country, the trough is weakening, generally looking at going closer to average. I was suspecting myself anyway, a little bit drier than average there for the final week of June. So we've got very, very good agreement here. This doesn't always happen between these models, but this morning we've got very good agreement between the CFS and the JMA for the way things are playing out during June. Looks like the coming week will be very warm with a lot of dry weather, but the risk of thunderstorms in the south. Then the middle 2 weeks of the month, so week 2, week 3, going into the middle part of June, that goes a lot more unsettled, probably a lot cooler as well, but the main thing, more the temperatures, will probably bring bands of rain in off the Atlantic. And then the latter part of the month, so the final week or so of the month, sees an improvement as the ridge builds from the south. The Azores high starts to pull up warmer air from France. Now, of course, these models are highly experimental, so just because we've got agreement between the two doesn't necessarily mean that they're agreeing on the right scenario. So don't necessarily take this too seriously, but that's how things are playing out this morning. It was a fairly mixed month, but some useful dry and warm weather, and actually compared to average, the driest and warmest weather could be in the first week, the coming week of the month. So wait and see how things play out. As ever, tomorrow it's weekend forecast, so come back for that. Going to be some very warm weather on the cards for that one, I think. And later on, of course, we'll be having a look at Stormwatch, see what thundery potential is over the next few days. That's all now then, and thanks for watching.